comedic moment they never expected. What would happen when the 70-year-old veteran in his faded military jacket, confined to a wheelchair, seemed so out of place on that grand stage? Everyone was ready to laugh, until the moment he opened his mouth and changed everything forever. Thomas Harrison adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses, squinting at the crossword puzzle in today's newspaper. Morning sunlight streamed through simple curtains that had adorned his windows since he returned from Vietnam. The modest apartment in Oak Ridge, Arizona wasn't much, but it was home. 7 letters, military term for highest alert status, he muttered to himself. DEFCON 1. His pen moved with certainty. At 70, Thomas had settled into predictable rhythm of retirement. Mornings with coffee and crosswords, afternoons volunteering at the local veteran center, Thursdays at the veterans choir practice where he sang baritone, always blending in, never standing out. After 25 years teaching music at the local high school following his military service, Thomas had grown comfortable with his quiet life. The small apartment was neat but modest. His Purple Heart and service medals were displayed in a simple frame above the television. A folded American flag sat in a triangular case on the bookshelf, next to faded photographs of younger days when he could still stand tall. It had been 15 years since the accident that put him in a wheelchair, a drunk driver who never stopped to see the damage he'd caused. Thomas rarely spoke about it, just as he rarely mentioned the nightmares that still woke him from Vietnam. He'd adapted to his circumstances with the same quiet dignity he'd shown throughout his life. The telephone's shrill ring interrupted his routine. "Hello," Thomas answered, straightening his posture instinctively, despite the confines of his wheelchair. "Harrison, it's Mike from the choir. Did you see the news? They're holding auditions for America's Star Search at the convention center next Tuesday." Thomas chuckled. "Mike, you know those talent shows aren't for people like me." "Nonsense. You have the most powerful voice I've ever heard. Even Colonel Martinez says so. I haven't sung solo in, well, I can't remember when." His fingers unconsciously touched the small service medal on his side table, the only reminder of dreams long abandoned. After hanging up, Thomas wheeled himself to his bathroom mirror, studying the reflection that stared back. Lines that surrounded his eyes told stories of jungle warfare, joy, and sorrow. The faded military jacket he wore, his favorite, hung a bit looser than it once had. He hummed softly, then let his voice rise, filling the small bathroom with rich, warm tones. For a moment, he wasn't a paralyzed widower living alone in a one-bedroom apartment. He was young again, full of hope, standing on the stage of his military base's talent show. Before everything changed, before Captain Reynolds had destroyed his confidence with cutting remarks. Technically disciplined, Private Harrison, but lacks the soul of a true military performer. 40 years later, his words still stung. Thomas closed his eyes, the melody fading. Little did he know that 3 miles away, Mike was uploading a video to the America's Star Search website, a clip he had secretly recorded of Thomas singing a solo during last Veterans Day ceremony. 3 days later, Thomas's phone rang again. This time, the caller ID displayed a number he didn't recognize. "Hello, Mr. Harrison? This is Jason Parker from America's Star Search. I'm calling because we received your audition video." Thomas's heart skipped. "I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. I didn't submit any video." Jason chuckled. "Well, someone certainly did. A beautiful rendition of America the Beautiful at what looks like a Veterans Memorial Service. That was you, wasn't it?" His mind raced, immediately suspecting Mike's well-intentioned meddling. "Yes, but I didn't. Mr. Harrison, we'd like to invite you to perform on next week's show. Your voice has a unique quality that could make for a memorable television moment." In the production office across town, Jason covered the mouthpiece and winked at his colleague. They needed their weekly sympathetic elimination. The contestant audiences loved to root for but vote off for their lack of talent. Elderly disabled veterans were ratings gold. Viewers ate up these segments. "I couldn't possibly," Thomas stammered. "I haven't performed solo in decades. And my wheelchair." "All the more reason. America loves comeback stories. Think about it. Inspiring veterans everywhere. were fully accessible, of course. After hanging up, Thomas wheeled around his living room, alternately thrilled and terrified. He dialed his daughter in Phoenix. "Dad, that's amazing," Rebecca exclaimed. "At my age, in this chair, I'll look ridiculous." "You look brave," Rebecca countered. "Remember what you always told me when I was afraid to try something new. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but acting despite it, just like in combat." Thomas smiled, hearing his own words repeated back. "That's General Patton, dear." "Well, it's still true, Dad. When Mom died, you put everything on hold for me. Your dreams, your life, everything. Maybe this is a universe giving you a second chance." Thomas stared at the medals displayed on his wall. The courage that earned him those had faded over the years, crushed under the weight of Captain Reynolds' criticism, his injuries, and quiet decades of blending into the background. He wheeled to his piano, the one luxury he'd allowed himself. His fingers moved across the keys, finding the melody of America the Beautiful. The notes filled his apartment, and for a moment, he allowed himself to imagine sitting on that stage. "What's the worst that could happen?" he murmured. Death hadn't taken him in Vietnam. The accident hadn't broken his spirit. Maybe this was worth the risk. With trembling hands, he dialed Jason Parker's number. "Mr. Parker? It's Thomas Harrison. I'll do it." "Excellent." Jason's voice oozed satisfaction. "We'll send a car for you Tuesday morning. Wear something patriotic. The audience loves that." After hanging up, Thomas pulled open his closet door, pushing aside hangers until he found what he was looking for. His dress uniform jacket, preserved carefully these many years. It might not fit perfectly anymore, but it would tell his story before he sang a single note. That night, he dreamed not of war but of music. The massive studio complex loomed before Thomas like a fortress. His hand straightened his veteran's pin instinctively as production assistant pushed his wheelchair through a labyrinth of corridors. "First time on television?" the young woman asked, barely looking down at him. "Is it that obvious?" Thomas attempted a smile, sitting tall despite his nervousness, a habit formed during his military years. "Don't worry, most contestants are nervous. Hair and makeup are first, then vocal coaching, then camera blocking." The makeup room buzzed with activity. Young performers with perfect skin getting touch-ups, muscular dancers stretching in corners, a teenage girl practicing guitar riffs. Thomas felt conspicuously out of place in his wheelchair and modest military jacket with a veteran's pin, the same one he'd worn to his granddaughter's graduation last spring. Eyes glanced his way, then quickly averted. A young contestant whispered to another, both giggling behind their hands while looking in his direction. Thomas's cheeks burned with embarrassment, but he kept his chin up. "Thomas Harrison?" A makeup artist approached, assessing his face with professional detachment. "Let's see what we can do here." As the artist worked, Thomas observed the room through the mirror. Behind him, one contestant mimicked pushing a wheelchair, causing another to stifle laughter. Thomas pretended not to notice, though his heart sank. "You're all set," the makeup artist said kindly. "Remember to smile. The camera loves authentic emotion." Authentic emotion. Thomas wondered if they want to see the authentic emotions churning inside him right now. 90 minutes later, Thomas barely recognized a man in the mirror. His white hair had been styled in a dignified manner, his face subtly enhanced to minimize age spots while maintaining his character. "Not too much, I hope?" he asked timidly. The makeup artist smiled kindly. "You look distinguished, sir. Age appropriate but camera ready." In the rehearsal space, contestants warmed up under the watchful eye of Jason Parker. When he reached Thomas, his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Mr. Harrison, our heroic veteran, how are you feeling?" "A bit overwhelmed, to be honest." "That's natural." He patted Thomas's shoulder. "Remember, just have fun with it. The audience loves authenticity." As Jason walked away, Thomas overheard him whispering to another producer, perfect for the sympathy segment, the grandpa everyone wishes they had, in a wheelchair, no less. His heart sank. Was that all he was? A token elderly contestant? A ratings ploy? The prop in his wheelchair that would get people talking on social media? The vocal coach approached next, a thin woman with piercing eyes. "Let's hear what you've got," she said, her tone suggesting she expected little. Thomas took a deep breath and began to sing. Night fell outside the studio, but inside, final rehearsals continued under harsh lights. Thomas sat in his dressing room, staring at the sheet music before him. Just hours remained before the live broadcast. A framed photo of his late wife Martha sat on the makeup table. He'd brought it for courage. Beside it lay his dog tags, worn smooth by decades. His mind wandered back to 1970, to the base talent show at Fort Benning. He had practiced for weeks, determined to impress everyone, especially Captain Reynolds, the music director known for launching military careers. Thomas had sung his heart out that night, hitting every note perfectly, or so he thought. Afterward, Captain Reynolds had called him aside. "Private Harrison, technically sound, but empty. Some men aren't meant for the spotlight. Stick to the chorus." A week later, he was shipped to Vietnam. Thomas's hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his jacket in the mirror. The young man who had dreamed of a music career was long gone, replaced by an aging veteran whose voice had been silenced by criticism, war, and loss. He unfolded the sheet music again, going over the lyrics he already knew by heart. "America the Beautiful" had been Martha's favorite. They had danced to an instrumental version at their wedding, before his deployment, before the wheelchair, before everything. 10 minutes, Mr. Harrison. A production assistant called through the door. Thomas closed his eyes, whispering, "Martha, I could use some of your courage right now." A knock at the door preceded Rebecca's entrance. His daughter had driven 2 hours to support him. "Dad, you look amazing." Rebecca embraced him tightly. "I feel like an imposter," Thomas confessed. "The other contestants are so talented, so young, so able-bodied." Rebecca took her father's hands. "Tell me what's really bothering you." Thomas's eyes grew distant. "I keep hearing Captain Reynolds' voice in my head. It's been 40 years, but somehow being here brings it all back." "Your music instructor during basic training? The one who told you to quit?" Thomas nodded. "It was at the base talent show. Afterward, he called me aside and said I'd never have what it takes, that some people aren't meant for spotlight. A week later, I was shipped to Vietnam." "Dad!" Rebecca hesitated, then pulled out her phone. "I need to show you something." She played a video, the same Veterans Memorial performance Mike had submitted. Thomas watched himself singing, unaware of being recorded. "Look at the faces in the audience," Rebecca urged. The camera panned across teary-eyed veterans and civilians, their expressions wrapped with emotion. "That's what your voice does to people, Dad. Not technically sound, transformative." Thomas's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know if I can do this." The stage of America's Star Search was designed to intimidate. Blinding lights, a live audience of 1,200, 3 celebrity judges known for their brutal honesty, and cameras capturing every angle. Backstage, contestants huddled like soldiers preparing for battle. "You're 8th in the lineup," a stage manager informed Thomas. Right after the teenage rock band and before the opera singer. He nodded, his throat suddenly dry. Jason Parker appeared at Thomas's side, all television smiles and polished encouragement. "Remember, Mr. Harrison, just be yourself. America loves authenticity." The same words he'd used earlier, but now Thomas detected their hollow center. As Thomas's moment approached, the teenage rock band finished a thunderous applause, their energy electric. Then silence fell as the stage was reset. Next up, the host announced, a Vietnam veteran from Arizona who's proving it's never too late to chase your dreams. "Please welcome Thomas Harrison." The applause was polite as a stagehand pushed Thomas's wheelchair to center stage. The microphone stand seemed miles away. The lights blinded him, transforming the audience into a dark, faceless mass. He could sense the collective judgment, his wheelchair, his aged hands, his white hair. A camera zoomed in close enough for him to hear his mechanical whir. "Good evening," Thomas said, his voice barely a whisper. The microphone caught it, amplifying his nervousness. Someone in the audience tittered. Another coughed pointedly. Thomas straightened his shoulders, remembering how he'd sat at attention in rice paddies and jungle clearings. If he could face enemy fire, he could face this. Mr. Harrison, the lead judge, a former boy band singer, spoke. Tell us about yourself. I'm Thomas Harrison, 70 years old, from Oak Ridge, Arizona, Vietnam veteran, retired music teacher. And what brings you to our stage tonight? He paused, considering the scripted answer the producers had suggested. Something about fulfilling lifelong dreams and inspiring seniors everywhere. Instead, he said simply, my friend Mike recorded me singing at a veterans memorial and submitted it without telling me. Genuine laughter rippled through the audience. Not mockery, but warm appreciation for his honesty. Well, let's see what Mike saw in you. The judge smiled indulgently. What will you be performing? America the Beautiful, Thomas replied. The judges exchanged glances. It was a notoriously difficult song that had humbled many contestants half his age. The music began, those iconic opening notes swelling through the studio. Thomas closed his eyes, letting the familiar melody wash over him. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped the armrests of his wheelchair. When he opened his eyes again, he wasn't seeing the audience or judges. He was seeing Martha, his late wife, and their fellow soldiers who never made it home. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies. His voice emerged tentative at first. In the control room, Jason Parker leaned forward. Get ready for the reaction shots, he instructed the director. This should be good. But then something unexpected happened. Thomas's voice opened up on the second line, rich and full of emotion, carrying decades of life experience in every note. This wasn't a technically perfect voice. It had the character that only age and living could provide. A slight raspiness added authenticity no vocal coach could teach. America, America, God shed his grace on thee. The audience, primed for amusement, instead fell completely silent. On stage, Thomas was transforming before everyone's eyes. Sitting taller, the military baron returning to his frame. His face illuminated with joy as he approached the song's climax. His voice soared, carrying all the passion of a man who had fought and lost, who had weathered life's storms and emerged stronger. From sea to shining sea. The final notes hung in the air, perfect, transcendent, undiminished by time or tragedy. For 3 eternal seconds, silence reigned. The silence shattered as the audience erupted. It began with a single person in the front row, a middle-aged man in a veteran's cap who leapt to his feet, hands clapping wildly above his head. Like a wave, the standing ovation spread row by row until all 1,200 audience members were on their feet. Thomas sat frozen, blinking against the bright lights. Was this really happening? The applause continued, growing thunderous, punctuated by whistles and cheers. Someone shouted, Semper Fi. A young woman in the balcony pressed her fingers to her mouth and released an ear-piercing whistle of appreciation. In the control room, producers stared at the monitors in disbelief. Are you seeing this? Jason Parker whispered, his face pale. The segment planned for gentle mockery had backfired spectacularly. The lead judge, known for his cutting remarks and impossible standards, was on his feet, clapping emphatically. The female judge was openly weeping, mascara running down her cheeks. The third judge, a veteran music producer, simply shook his head in amazement. Mr. Harrison, the lead judge, finally spoke when applause died down enough for him to be heard. I don't even know what to say. That was extraordinary. The following morning, Thomas's performance had gone viral. Clips appeared on news programs. Social media platforms erupted with praise, and his phone wouldn't stop ringing. Dad, you got 3 million views already, Rebecca exclaimed, scrolling through her phone during breakfast in Thomas's hotel room. People are calling you Voice of Valor and America's Wheelchair Warrior. Thomas buttered his toast with steady hands. The panic and insecurity of yesterday seemed to belong to another lifetime. It's all rather overwhelming. A knock at the door revealed a beaming Jason Parker, holding a bouquet of flowers. His chagrined expression couldn't quite hide his excitement. Mr. Harrison, I owe you an apology, he began. And a thank you. Last night's ratings were our highest this season. Thomas accepted the flowers with dignified grace. No apology necessary, Mr. Parker. Sometimes being underestimated is a gift. In Vietnam, It often meant survival. Jason shifted uncomfortably. We received calls from 3 record labels this morning. They're interested in discussing opportunities with you. Thomas's eyes widened. At my age, in this wheelchair. As the judges said, your voice is something unique. Life experience that resonates with people. Would you be interested in exploring these options? Later, as he prepared for his second appearance on the show, Thomas found himself humming contentedly. His phone chimed with a text message from an unfamiliar number. Captain Reynolds here. I'm 90 now, retired in Florida. Saw your performance last night. I was wrong about you all those years ago. Profoundly, unforgivably wrong. You were always extraordinary. I'm sorry. Thomas read the message twice, then smiled softly. After 40 years, the wound could finally heal. In the mirror, he saw himself clearly, not just an old veteran in a wheelchair, but an artist whose time had finally come. Better late than never. The wheelchair that had once seemed like his prison now felt like just another part of his journey. No more defining than his white hair or the medals on his jacket. He texted back a simple response. Thank you, Captain. It's never too late to find your voice. If Thomas's story touched your heart, remember that talent doesn't diminish with age or physical limitations. Sometimes it only grows richer. In a world quick to dismiss the elderly and disabled, especially our veterans, we miss the wisdom, experience, and beauty they offer. Thomas Harrison didn't just sing a song. He reminded America that our veterans carry stories worth hearing, talents worth seeing, and dignity worth respecting, regardless of their age or physical condition. What hidden talents are waiting to be discovered in your life? Have you ever been underestimated because of how you look or your physical limitations? Share your stories in the comments below and show some respect for the veterans in your community who might be silently carrying extraordinary gifts. Where are you watching from, and has a veteran in your life surprised you with their hidden talents? Drop your location and story in the comments. Remember, it's never too late to find your voice, whether you're standing tall or sitting in a wheelchair. Every person deserves to be seen for their abilities, not their limitations. Subscribe for more stories that remind us to look beyond appearances and honor those who served our country with dignity and respect.